Hi, this is Greg Moran of the Founders Journey podcast and newsletter with the weekly Founders Journey update. This week, we're talking about calming the founder's mind, which is something that I always struggled with a lot when I was running my business. I mean, the reality is the founder's journey can be really scary at times. A lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, and it's easy for that to really overwhelm us. I know it did to me when I was running my company. But one of the things that I came to realize just through a lot of reading and really learning about this was that the fear and the anxiety that I was feeling was really created by the constant chatter that was going on in my mind. And everybody has this ongoing monologue that's running in the back of their mind. It tries to explain everything around us that we see and hear. It's insidious. When we feel cold, it tells us we're going to freeze to death. Or it tells us we're going to be home soon. It tries to explain everything that we're interacting with around us. You see an airplane flying and the chatter is trying to guess the destination of the airplane. But it also really tries to interpret the events of our business. We lose a key client, which happens. And suddenly in our mind, the chatter is that we're going to run out of money. We lose a key employee. And that chatter starts to say that everybody is going to quit. So what's really the solution? What do we do to get this under control? And what we need to do is quiet our mind. That's quieting that chatter that's going on. And like anything else, it's a skill. Quieting your mind really, truly is a skill, and it takes practice. There's really 4 ways that at least I've explored and experimented with and trying to calm my mind, get fear and anxiety under control that we all experience during that founder's journey. One, we've got to observe that chatter, right? Consciously listen to your mind for a bit of time, and you're going to realize the noise is endless. Sometimes it's really loud, sometimes it's less so, but it's always there. And also notice the contradictions and the randomness that are really taking place with that chatter, right? 1 second is telling you their business is over. The next second, in your mind, you're arguing about what to order for lunch. It's completely random and it's neurotic in so many ways. It'll take both sides of an argument. And what that does is it creates confusion and it creates indecision. And it's by observing this chatter that we really realize how ineffective and unhelpful it is. That chatter is not our logical reasoning and our ability to process information. That chatter is just happening around us. It's not you, but it's a defense mechanism to try to control and to try to control what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. The second tip after observing is really trying to give that chatter a voice. Write down the observations that you're seeing. When some event strikes, like the loss of a key client or employee, like we just mentioned, write down what that chatter is telling you. We're going to run out of money. We're going to lose everybody. Now, how are we going to support our family? I mean, the cascading that really occurs when the chatter completely gets out of control, but it's giving voice to it and it's writing down, because when you write it down, you can actually look at how destructive this is. When you really review that list, do you truly believe that these things are going to happen? I mean, if you're explaining to others on your team, would you ever explain the risks that you wrote down that, because we lost this client, now I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to lose my family, and I'm not going to have anything left, and we're going to lose all of our clients? No, you would never, because you don't believe that. But it's the chatter that's driving that fear and anxiety. But so by giving it voice, we're able to see the ridiculousness that it's really creating for us. But then take that list and try to answer a different question. On the example of the key client, maybe ask yourself for that list, how are you going to successfully manage the loss of this key client? And then create that list. But now it's not coming from the chatter, it's actually coming from our awareness of the situation, right? It's a very different list that comes out of that. Really one born of action and optimism, not fear and anxiety. So after we give it voice, it's time to refocus that chatter. When we let it run, the chatter is going to be neurotic. It's going to be indecisive. It's going to be anxiety inducing. It's going to be all of these things. But when we focus it, it can open up new insights. By focusing we focus the chatter by asking the right questions. Ask yourself questions that really narrow the scope of the thinking and really produce positive and productive outcomes. So when it gets off course, when the chatter is just running wild and it begins to chase another thought, you've got to redirect it back to that original question. But now this is focusing the mind as opposed to the random chatter. But that refocusing requires effort. It requires observation. It requires knowing the question that you want to answer and insisting on focusing on that question. At its core, really refocusing requires being intentional about the questions that you're asking yourself. And last, it's really about creating space between the chatter. This is a hard one. This one took me a long time and still is. I mean, I'm nowhere near far down the course on this. But refocusing that chatter is important when you're seeking answers. Creating space between the chatter is what creates calm. Not every second of the founder's journey, not every second that you're leading a startup, whether you're CEO, you're part of the management team, needs to be spent on problem solving. Time needs to be spent on calming our mind. And if we can create an environment in our mind devoid of the noise, devoid of the chatter, that's where insight and breakthroughs really come in. So just as you focus your mind on key questions, you can focus your mind on silence. When thoughts start to come up, intentionally move them aside. This chatter that's in our mind is of our own making. We can control it. We can control the noise, and we can also silence the noise. But this takes practice and it takes intention. It requires time spent every day to quiet that chatter through maybe it's meditation, maybe it's breath work, maybe it's some walking observation, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's getting on a treadmill, maybe it's going for a run, maybe it's any of the other productive things that quiet your mind. Use those techniques, but do it every day. A silent mind, a quiet mind, a calm mind, these things don't happen overnight, but they do happen with desire and they do happen with practice. And the results can be life-changing. You can reduce your anxiety, you can reduce the fear, you can build deeper relationships, and you can reach deeper insight. These are the things that we can experience if we can quiet our mind, reduce that chatter, refocus the chatter, and give ourselves some space in the day. Join us for the next time on the Founders Podcast, where we actually interview founders to talk about their experiences and their founders' journey and provide practical tips and insight, whether you're a current founder or you're just thinking about it. That's really what the Founders Journey Podcast and newsletter are all about. I'm Greg Moran. Appreciate you joining us.